Elon Musk believes we are headed for a global recession. When asked by a Twitter user, "Do you still think we're approaching a recession?" Musk replied, "Yes, but this is actually a good thing." Meanwhile, recent email leaks from Musk show that he is worried about low worker productivity while working remote and is potentially implementing a hiring freeze at Tesla. And if that's not enough, in one email he said he has a super bad feeling about the economy and needs to cut 10% of jobs at Tesla. So hey everyone, and welcome to FinTech. And in this video, we'll look at what issues Musk is seeing in the economy that has him worried, dive into exactly what his leaked emails reveal, and talk about what effect this will have on Tesla in the short term and in the long term. Because when Daddy Elon has an issue with the economy, it tends to affect a lot of people whether they like it or not. Oh, and we'll figure out why President Joe Biden thinks Tesla is going to the moon.
So, lots of luck on his trip to the moon.
Hey, you heard it here first. So to start off, Musk has been talking for a while about his worries with the US economy. Here's a clip of him from early May expressing his expectations for inflation based on rampant money printing by the Federal Reserve.
The obvious reason for inflation is that the government printed a zillion amount of more money than it had, obviously.
And he went on to make some pretty frightening comparisons to show what this might mean for the economy going forward.
Various countries have tried this experiment multiple times. It's not like, oh, I wonder what happens if this is done. Yeah. Have you seen Venezuela?
Musk is referring to the hyperinflation that Venezuela experienced in recent years as the government responded to dropping oil prices by simply printing more and more money to keep the government running. This caused prices to rise 684% in 2021 alone. So imagine buying a Chipotle burrito for $7 at the start of the year and then paying nearly $55 at the end of the year for that exact same burrito. Or your $50,000 a year salary only being worth $6,400 after a year of working. That inflation combined with Venezuela's inability to sell much of their oil has sent the percentage of that nation's population in poverty skyrocketing, hitting a 96% poverty rate in 2019 with nearly 80% in extreme poverty. And with extreme poverty up nearly 10 times from where it was a decade ago. Now, I don't think Musk is saying the US will turn into Venezuela anytime soon, but this example shows how serious runaway inflation can become. And that high inflation rate has weighed very heavily on businesses that are trying to produce goods, with costs of raw materials rising rapidly. But even more concerning, when asked last December when Musk thought the next recession would be, Musk replied, "Predicting macroeconomics is challenging to say the least. My gut feeling is maybe around spring or summer 2022, but not later than 2023. So if that prediction is correct, we could see a recession start tomorrow. And with soaring inflation, rampant supply chain issues, and higher wages and costs for raw materials, manufacturing companies like Tesla or other automakers may feel the squeeze even earlier than the rest of the economy." More recently, in comments at a conference in Miami in mid-May, Musk said, "I think we are probably in a recession and that recession will get worse." But he's not incredibly upset because he thinks companies that are not providing value should go bankrupt. So with Musk clearly believing things are already getting bad in the economy and about to get a lot worse, it makes sense that he's taking extreme defensive moves to protect Tesla by implementing a hiring freeze and reducing overall headcount at the company. But is Musk right that we're about to enter a recession, and what would that mean for Tesla and their stock price? Well, while Tesla is starting to cut back on hiring in preparation for a recession, other automakers are actually ramping up their hiring and investing. Coming off the back of President Joe Biden visiting automakers like GM and Ford, the president even called out Tesla directly. In response to a question around Musk's recession fears and the potential hiring freeze, Joe Biden said this.
Elon Musk is talking about that. Ford is increasing their investment overwhelmingly. I think Ford is increasing the investment in building new electric vehicles, 6,000 new employees, union employees, I might add. So, lots of luck on his trip to the moon.
So Biden is obviously going to prefer companies with a strong union presence, since that base does tend to support Democratic candidates like himself. And Musk responded on Twitter saying, "Tesla has created over 50,000 US jobs, more than double GM and Ford combined." But outside of Biden and Elon's back and forth, it's interesting that traditional automakers are still hiring steadily while Tesla is considering cutting back. So there's clearly a disconnect between what Tesla and the other automakers are forecasting. But it's not just other automakers. According to a survey by Gartner, 64% of HR leaders have not taken any action in response to recent economic volatility, with only 2% freezing hiring for all roles. Meanwhile, Tesla is considering a hiring freeze. But Musk went even further than that, telling executives at Tesla in a recent email that they need to cut back the headcount of salaried employees by 10%. Imagine if I cut headcount by 10% on this channel. Well, I guess technically it's just me full time, so you guess you'd have me from like the hairline down or something? But this isn't the only time Tesla has had to cut staff as they've grown. They've also had large firings in 2017 and in 2018. And while some may say that cutting headcount is a sign of slowing growth, the company has clearly continued to grow more than ever since then. Nevertheless, Tesla's stock price did decline around 9% following the publications of Musk's headcount reduction calls. But market sentiment hasn't been 100% for or against Tesla with this recent change in policy. Stock analyst Seth Goldstein said in an article, "Tesla likely doesn't need to hire any more employees to maintain its growth. We think the plan to reduce workforce likely shows that Tesla overhired last year." Meanwhile, others are much more worried about Musk's plans to fire any employees who refuse to return to office working 100%, or at least 40 hours per week. And while headlines love to talk about Tesla firing 10% of its workforce, its return to office policy may have a way bigger impact than these job cuts, and it could affect Tesla's stock price a lot more. And speaking of stocks, if you haven't yet, make sure to grab your 5 free stocks from Moomoo when you deposit $100. Moomoo has some interesting features like the ability to share trades like a social network, and most importantly, it's literally free money just for signing up. So check out the link in the description to get that deal while it's still going on. Okay, now let's get into Elon's leaked emails. Elon Musk has long been a vocal critic of remote working, at one point praising Chinese workers for, quote, burning the 3 a.m. oil, while criticizing US workers who are trying to avoid working at all. And this has culminated in Musk sending this email to his staff. Now, I won't read through the whole thing, but you can pause the video if you want to read it. In this message, he says everyone must work at their assigned office for 40 hours per week, and if they don't show up, they are effectively resigning from Tesla. He goes on to say that other companies don't require this, but those companies also haven't shipped any great new products recently. So we'll talk about Musk's belief that remote working doesn't work in a minute, but more important for the short term is the massive impact this could have on Tesla's ability to find and retain talent going forward. While many companies that rely on expensive engineering talent are like Twitter, which lets employees work from anywhere as long as they are productive, or Uber, which originally said it would allow workers to work 100% remote, but has now backtracked to allow 50% remote working, Tesla has decided to take a much harder line approach to return to office. And while Musk may have good reasons for his demand, there's an even better reason why other technology companies have not pushed hard for return to office. Apple recently backed away from plans to have staff in the office just 3 days a week after staff pushed back, and one of Apple's top AI workers actually resigned over the policy change, with that executive immediately getting scooped up by Apple's parent company, Alphabet. And Apple is definitely not unique here. This has been the story with most other companies that have attempted to return to office. This report from the Harvard Business Review shows more than 40% of US employees would start looking for another job or even quit immediately if ordered to return to the office full time. And even companies that have pushed hard to implement a full return to office have struggled. Goldman Sachs offered big pay raises as they demanded workers return to office back in March. But as of early May, they're still at only 50% of their people working out of the office. And that's Goldman Sachs, a company whose response to complaints over 100-hour work weeks is just to pay more money until the complaints go away. And if even they realize that they can't force everyone to return to office immediately, it seems extremely ambitious for Tesla to think that they can do so without losing huge amounts of white-collar staff. A recent US jobs report showed there are currently 1.9 job openings for every 1 unemployed person. This means workers are really spoiled for choice, and if they feel strongly about working remotely, they have the power to leave for somewhere that offers that choice. And guess what? The data shows that they actually do feel very strongly about that. According to a survey by consultancy PwC, just 11% of workers prefer full-time in-person working. And according to that same survey, in-person workers report less job satisfaction than hybrid or remote workers. And in a survey of 10,000 white-collar workers backed by Salesforce, they found that people who are dissatisfied with their level of flexibility at work are 3 times more likely to be looking for a new job. So unless the job market softens and power swings back from employees from employers, Tesla may struggle to retain talent if they follow Musk's hardline return to office approach. But losing a ton of talented employees, while it is bad, may not even be the worst part of this for Tesla. Musk's email clearly shows he does not believe great products can be made remotely, and he explicitly says Tesla cannot make great products by, quote, phoning it in. But while Musk might believe that, that's not what the data shows. Even before the pandemic, 16% of the US workforce, or around 26 million Americans, worked remotely according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. By December 2020, that number hit 71% of workers whose responsibilities let them work remotely. And a survey from Work From Home research found that that 40% of workers reported they were more productive at home during the pandemic than they had been when in the office, and only 15% said the opposite was true. According to a different study by Airtasker, remote employees work 1.4 more days per month, resulting in more than 3 additional weeks of work per year. Now, we can debate the causes of this. The researchers hypothesize that it might be a combination of people just sleeping better, less time spent commuting, the ability to work when people feel most productive. But whatever the cause of the increased productivity, I still haven't found a single study that shows decreased worker productivity working remotely. They all show increases. Here are 2 more studies showing the same thing just for good measure. Now, there's some wiggle room here because maybe creative work does better in in-person groups, sales might be better in person, but for most white-collar workers, remote working does increase productivity. But to be fair to Musk, there's always the possibility that Tesla is the exception. After all, Tesla received 3 million job applications last year, with around 100 applicants per job posting. So maybe it would actually be a good thing to scare away some applicants to reduce Tesla's HR workload. I'm sure Nancy in the back office would appreciate it. Plus, Tesla has managed to build a $700 billion company with only 100,000 employees versus Ford's 186,000 employees, or GM's 157,000 for a smaller total market cap, showing that Tesla employees on average are already way more productive than a traditional automaker. So what's the answer? Well, I think there are a few key takeaways. Number 1, Musk fully expects a recession to hit within the next year, and we may already be on the early stages of one. Number 2, that recession will impact Tesla directly, requiring Tesla to trim back its workforce. And this may accidentally be helped along by number 3, which is Tesla is taking a hardline approach to returning to office, which absolutely will result in some employee attrition. Now, maybe Musk is hoping that the employees will self-select who ends up leaving based on the return to office requirements, and just hopes that more than 10% don't end up quitting in what is a very hot job market for employees right now. Personally, I think that Musk's stance is a little bit stronger than it needs to be. A slow return to office would, in my opinion, accomplish the same thing, and it helps Tesla to avoid the massive short-term risks of a mass walkout that we've seen threatened at other companies that tried to force a return to office too early. And as far as Tesla cutting its workforce while other automakers keep growing, I think Tesla may be the canary in the coal mine for the auto industry. They may just be the first to start cutting jobs, but the others will follow close behind if we see a full-on recession. And Tesla may also be the canary in the shift to office work, showing that there's been a change in the job market and we're shifting from one where employees make the rules and can demand hybrid work to one where employers have all the negotiating power and can dictate where employees have to work from. But I'm curious if you think Tesla is going too far with this push for return to work, or if you think that Musk's recession prediction is premature, or if we are entering recession as we speak. Let me know in the comments. Make sure to grab your free stocks from Moomoo using the link in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.